Good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm Adam Smith. I'm the Programme Director for Dementia Researcher, and it's great to have you with us. Today I'm joined by Professor Nathan Davies and Professor Claudia Cooper, who lead the Alzheimer Society Doctoral Training Centre for Integrated Dementia Care. Hi, both of you. So over the next hour, let me flag up our program on the screen. Over the next hour, we're going to explore their funded PhD studentships and clinical training fellowships that are open for applications right now and due to begin in October 2026. We have a fairly simple format for today. As you can see, we're going to hear from Nathan and Claudia, who are going to talk about what the DTC aims to achieve, the research themes, partner institutions, what the studentships offer, and what the team are looking for in applications. And then there's going to be time for some questions and answers. So feel free to add them at any time. If you're watching in YouTube, you can post those in the comments. If you're watching on X, you click on the live stream and post those in the post section there, and you can add them into the comments in YouTube, in LinkedIn as well, and we will get to those at the end. But you can post your questions at any time. And if you're watching this from recorded and you've been unable to join those live, you can email them to me if you like at dementiaresearcher@ucl.ac.uk, or I'm sure Nathan and Claudia are going to give us some instructions on how questions can be answered when we get around to that. But that's enough from me now. I'm going to hand over to Nathan and Claudia, who are going to give us their talk.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam. And lovely to be here and talking through. Oh, we're at the end of our presentation here, so let's go back to the start. Lovely to be here and talking to you about the second cohort for our Doctoral Training Centre. So as Adam said, I'm Nathan Davies. I'm a professor at Queen Mary University and do obviously a big focus on dementia, supporting carers, and I have a particular interest in palliative and end-of-life care. And
hello, I'm Claudia Cooper. I'm also at Queen Mary University of London, and my interests span dementia prevention and care, and I'm particularly interested in the care experience and non-pharmacological interventions.
Brilliant. And together we're the two co-directors for this Doctoral Training Centre. So as many of you will have seen and have heard, that the Alzheimer Society funded 3 doctoral training centres. And this is an investment of just over £9 million. And we are one of the doctoral training centres. And then there are 2 others, one which is focused on vascular dementia and one which is focused on Lewy body dementia. But this is a fantastic investment from the Alzheimer Society, creating over 85 new dementia researchers through these PhD schemes. So we feel really privileged and really lucky to be leading one of these fantastic infrastructures and opportunities. So ICare, so what we're really trying to do is develop the next generation of dementia research leaders, and that's dementia research leaders in terms of PhD students. So you guys coming up through doing your PhDs and becoming future dementia leaders, but also the supervisors and developing our early career researchers and mid-career researchers in their kind of supervisory roles as well. So what we're looking to do, so our DTC is focused on integrated dementia care, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what that entails in a second. But we're looking to really create the high quality evidence and these next generation of research leaders to deliver the integrated care that will really help and support people living with dementia and those around them to have a meaningful and good life with dementia. So we're going to equip students with the knowledge, the skills and the experience to design and deliver this dementia research. And we'll focus on how we can deliver joined up care across not just primary and secondary care, but also with social care to ensure that people receive the best care that they possibly can. So this is a little slide about some of the people that are involved, but there are a lot of people involved in this doctoral training centre, which we are really pleased about. So we are a very multidisciplinary team across different types of clinical specialities and methodological specialities and fields as well. So the core team at Queen Mary, as you can see, is myself and Claudia, and Danielle Wyman is our amazing programme manager who keeps us on track, shall we say, with everything. We then have 4 partner universities, Martin Knapp is the lead from LSE. Claire Sir is the lead from Leeds Beckett University. And then Greta Raitt and Kate Walters, lead from UCL. And Shubi Banerjee and Nick Farina, lead from the University of Plymouth. And then we have our wonderful PPI leads. So Jane Ward, who is a former carer for her mum with dementia, and Sarah Smith, who's a professor with Claire, based at Leeds Beckett University. And so we really are a truly collaborative and national doctoral training centre. And as you would have seen from our advertisement, we have opportunities for PhDs across all of these universities. But importantly, we work very cohesively together as well as one DTC. So, as I said, what we're trying to do is create this next generation of research leaders. We want to deliver integrated care that improves the lives of people with dementia. We know that too often people with dementia receive quite fragmented care that's not joined up across specialities, across different sectors, across different parts of the NHS and the social care system. And we've got a series of different themes that all our projects for our PhDs will align to. So if you look on the right-hand side of the slide, our 4 main delivery themes are around the important parts of what we think integrated care includes. So providing independence, autonomy and choice for people with dementia and their families, focusing on underserved communities. And this is a variety of different groups of people, from thinking about culture, ethnicity, gender, and also deprivation as well. Thinking about complexity and risk, we hear quite a lot that providing care for people with dementia can be quite complex. It can be quite risky at times with different decisions that need to be made, for example. And then finally, end-of-life care, because this is a really important part of that as well. But importantly, our work will cover the entire trajectory of dementia, from prevention right through to end-of-life care. And cutting across these themes are our cross-cutting themes of focusing in on inequalities, co-production and lived experience. So all of our PhDs will have this as a core element to the projects, and focusing on delivering person-centred research and person-centred care as well. Importantly, this is obviously training. A PhD fellowship is about training you to become a researcher and a future leader. And so we have a DTC Academy, which will really support you throughout your PhD journey as well. And this is led by Greta Raitt at UCL and Nick Brimblecombe at LSE, with input from all of us within the DTC. So these are some of the elements. So an extended induction. So this is a photo on the left-hand side here of our cohort 1 induction that we just had back in October. We've got residential retreats. We'll have seminars, which we're doing with the other 2 DTCs, as well as our own program of seminars supported by Adam within the dementia researcher community. Collaborative cross-institutional supervision. So all of our PhD students will have supervisors that are across the universities. So for example, I might be supervising a PhD student at Queen Mary, but they would also have a supervisor from LSE or UCL, for example, to really embed the student across the different parts of our DTC. And as part of that, we also want to think about skill and training outside of doing research methods or thinking about dementia, but thinking about how we disseminate our findings, how we share, how we inform policy, how we implement things in practice. So thinking it forward for our projects for our 2026 cohort, so this will be our 2nd cohort. As you will have seen from the advertisements, we've got currently a minimum of 5 PhD studentships that we are advertising. Our PhD studentships are 4 years long and are across our 5 universities. We've advertised 19 projects, and what we asked applicants to do is to select which projects they would like to potentially do a PhD on and rank them as their top 3. Now, we've advertised more projects than we obviously have spaces for, but this is really to give a bit of a variety and think about what you want to do and what you could do. But what we're really interested in is how you can also make this your own as well. So this year's topics, there's much more detail online, but include things around young onset dementia, service provision, people living with multiple chronic conditions, and some AI-based PhDs as well. And alongside those non-clinical PhD studentships, we also have one clinical training fellowship as well. Now that's a 3-year PhD program. And again, we've given a variety of projects that people could select, but we only have one space for that one as well. So I won't go through this in detail. I'd rather spend time going through Claudia's bit, which is going to talk about top tips of developing your PhD application, but also we'd like to give you some time to ask some questions and we can answer that. But these are some of the kind of standard approaches: 2-1 and or a relevant master's, interesting research and dementia research, and importantly within that as well. For the clinical fellowships, there's some specific criteria. We are really open to all clinical staff, so doctors, nurses, allied health professionals as well. And there are some conditions around that. So thinking about your professional membership, and if you've not got that, explaining why you don't have that at this time point, if your specialty program is not at that time point yet, and it just explaining when you would get that, etc., etc. So these slides will be available online. The video will be available online, and I'm sure you will have all have seen our advert that is currently out on Dementia Researcher, but it's also on findaphd.com, where all this is laid out. Please have a look. What we would like you to do is to select whether you're doing a PhD or a clinical studentship, provide some referee details, rank your top projects in order. And then what we really want you to do is spend some time thinking about writing your personal statement. So this is a maximum of 1,000 words. And what we really want to hear from you is, why do you want to do a PhD? And why in particular those projects? Explain to us about your previous academic experience, but also other relevant experience. So some people might have worked in a care home, for example, and have worked with people with dementia. We want to hear about that and what you learned from that. Think about your previous research experience and really align with how your experience and skills match those of a PhD student. We also want you to submit a CV, so 2-page CV, and there is also a diversity and equality form we would like you to complete as well. And this can then all be sent to the ICare DTC email address. And if you've got questions after this as well, or if you're viewing after the live event, then please do email us at the ICare DTC email address. And there we go. That just reinforces it. Send it to the email. Applications will close on midnight on the 12th of January. And then we'll have interviews in person on the 19th of February at Queen Mary in our Whitechapel campus. Just a bit of detail on some of the funding information. So these would start in October 2026. We will pay home fees. If you are a student that requires international fees, then you would be responsible for paying the additional. We unfortunately do not have international fees available to pay. There is a stipend for the non-clinical PhDs, and we will also pay a salary for the clinical training fellowships as well. Importantly, you get quite a generous package of research and training costs. So you'd get £1,000 a year for training and conferences, and then about £3,000 a year for research costs. And I think I've already mentioned, but these are 4-year PhD studentships and 3-year for the clinical. So I'm going to pass over to Claudia, and she's going to talk to you a little bit more about how to develop your application.
Thank you. So common mistakes to avoid. I'm going to go through this one fairly briefly, because after we tell you all the things not to do, we tell you all the things to do, which are the exact opposite, which I think is probably a more positive space to spend my time. But when things fall down, it's often that in reading it, the assessor cannot picture this, doesn't feel that this person has fully appreciated what the DTC is and what the ethos and the values are and what we're trying to achieve, or a lack of alignment of their interests with the actual project that they want to do. Never ignore the guidelines. It's never a good idea at any stage of your career, of course, but do check those word counts and so on. We're encouraging you, as Nathan said, to kind of pick these projects up and run with them and think about how you can make them your own. But think about how your ideas come across and whether they feel feasible. 4 years will fly by, and people very rarely underestimate how much they can do in a PhD. It's much more usual for people to originally think what they want to do is so much, and then to realise that that's actually going to be their PhD and their postdoc and perhaps the early part of their career. So think about feasibility. Don't send generic applications. The people that will be appointed and will be successful will have really spent time thinking about this opportunity and talking to people about this opportunity. So here is what to do. So with a reasonable amount of notice, do contact potential supervisors. I know people are already getting in touch with us, and just asking for a chat so that we can tell them a little bit more about the project. You're only probably going to have one chat with your potential supervisor, so do make it count. Think about what you'd like to ask and what you might like to suggest about how you'd like to develop the project. Because showing interest in the project and perhaps asking how feasible your ideas might be will stand you in very good stead in writing something that feels feasible to the reader. And you can actually write in your application then that you've spoken to supervisor and you've suggested and discussed ideas to think about if this was awarded. So that's about the supervisors. People might be asking, if I'm interested in several projects, do I need to speak to the supervisor for every project? We generally say that you must speak to the supervisor for the top project, but actually you might want to speak to more than one person because that might be part of your decision process. And it's not wrong to speak to more, it's just you don't have to. So when you read the personal statement, it's really important to present this next 4 years as a studentship as the next stage on a journey for you that makes sense to the reader. So however many accolades and publications and A stars that you have, 9s I should say these days, but GCSEs, actually, if that's all in sort of biochemistry and you've not explained why you want to make the shift into thinking about integrated care, then that is not going to be as competitive as somebody who is able to show the trajectory, who's able to show through their academic interests, through their lived experience, through their working life, that they have spent time with people with dementia. They know a little bit about what it's like to talk and be with people affected by dementia and family carers, because you'll be doing that in all of these projects. Tell us a bit as well about why you want to do a PhD. PhDs are a life event. They are hard work and there are always doubts along the way. So we want to appoint people that are going to feel that this is the right opportunity for them and who are going to be able to stay with us through that journey. So we really want to understand that you understand what a PhD involves, that it involves extensive periods of both research and writing. So it's all very well to write that you have skills, you have enthusiasm, you do this, but what always reads really well is if you can pin that statement to an example. I have been interested in dementia for 10 years. During that time, when I first became interested, when I was working in a care home, and then I did this, and then I did an MSc project on dementia. And similarly, how are you going to show us that you know what a PhD is and what it is like to be doing research? So you may say that, maybe you haven't had the opportunity to do an MSc, but perhaps you could tell us about some research you've been doing or some pieces of writing. Maybe we're obsessed with people working in care homes, aren't we? But I'm sorry, I'm going to stick with the same example. Supposing you wrote the communications, supposing you wrote case summaries, just anything. If you have written and published research studies, sing about that from the rooftop, because that's fantastic. But if not, make the most of what you have done. Have you written articles for lay magazines, for example? Anything that you've written, any time that you've spent with people living with dementia, and tell us where you want this PhD to take you. There is no one right answer, but tell us why the Alzheimer's Society needs to invest in 4 years of your time to become a dementia researcher. What are you going to do with that investment? How is that going to pay back to people living with dementia and family carers? Why is it a good investment for the charity? So have a very well organised CV and make it really clear when you have publications. It makes a huge difference to have something that is published as opposed to submitted. Published and in press are great because they indicate that you have written something that has been peer reviewed and accepted. So if you if you're in the capacity to, think about pre-printing, for example, anything that means that you have things that you can share, because then if you have a reference, people can look up and they can see that you've done previous writing. Technical and transferable skills, coding, lab techniques, communication skills. How can you show that you've got some of the skills, not all, because that's why we're here, but what skills can you transfer into this piece of work? In terms of thinking through your research, try and have a realistic think about what you would do when, and sort of walk yourself through it. And it's always very helpful if you can to talk to PhD students who, because they will tell you, for example, you may think before you do it, oh, I'll do my systematic review in the first 4 months and then I'll go on and do this. Most people take a year actually to do that. Everything takes longer than you think. It takes ages if you're applying for NHS ethics. It takes at least 5 months. So if you go into an interview knowing that your project needs NHS ethics, for example, and being able to show that you've factored that into your timeline, it already shows that you are thinking, you're walking in the shoes that you will be in if you do this. We're very passionate, unsurprisingly, about integrated care. And the reason that we have this as a cohort is we want all of the PhD students and the projects to be greater than the sum of their parts. So we want to get the students together, and obviously this will grow and grow because this cohort is joining a previous cohort. And we want people to bounce ideas off each other. And we'd like the cohort to create something and to create a body of evidence that really helps integrated care services to deliver care that is more joined up, because people with dementia are really suffering at the moment from the fact that it is not joined up enough. We've got the government wanting us to do our 3 big shifts in the 10-year health plan, from hospital to community, sickness to prevention, and they're also really passionate about integrated care. If you can show some awareness of some of the contextual drivers for some of this work from the policy arena as well, then that is very good. So show that you care about that too, and think about why you want to do a PhD here in this TTC rather than another DTC, and try and make sure that that comes across. And oh, so much proofread it. I remember somebody telling me earlier in my career that they once read a PhD. He was quite an obsessional man, but he said he once read a PhD without a single typo. And he was so impressed. And actually, if you can aim to send in an application without a single typo, it really does put you in good spirits when you're reading lots. So do get people to read it through for you as well. Get different opinions when you're doing this, and because it really helps to have different eyes on it. And that's us done. So over to you for some questions.
Yeah. And please do feel free to email us on that email address as well. So take note of that.
Thank you very much. That was great. I mean, I really... Can you hear me now?
No.
How strange. Bear with me 1 second. How about now?
No.
No.
We can look for you, though.
It's very strange. I have a microphone for just in case of emergencies.
This gives you lots of time to think about the questions that you're going to ask us anyway. So that's a good time for reflection and
if you can hear us, of course.
Yeah, well, maybe that's been the entire time through.
I hope not. I think we haven't just been talking to each other. No, I'm afraid we can't hear you now.
No.
Oh, I wonder whether we could start answering the questions. Should we do that?
Yes, let's go for
it. It would be nice to know if people can hear us. So perhaps Danielle could send us a WhatsApp.
Oh, I can hear you perfectly. I can't anymore.
I read that
strange has happened.
Time can be spent in NHS sessions or equivalent. I was wondering what this would look like. You can
perhaps hear me now.
Well, Saba, I think that this would be the same as with clinicians who do PhDs in every different way, because we always want to keep our clinical skills up and to keep our registration. And so this could look in a range of different ways, because it would be, oh, wonderful, thank you. We're being heard. So it would be supernumerary, because this is a fully costed PhD studentship, and therefore you could select something that was suitable. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a fair point.
But you need, I mean, I did, it's a question, because it's supernumerary, you just need to pick something that's sort of well delineated. So I did a liaison service when I was doing mine. Right, I'll read out the next one and then you answer it, Nathan. Otherwise, I'm just going to do one woman show here. Right, US vascular neurologist here, working in dementia and integrated care. Interested in how your program links frontline clinicians with implementation research. Any scope for international clinical collaborators rather than full-time doctoral students?
So I think that in short, the answer to that would be that this is a doctoral training centre. So we are appointing doctoral students to this, but we always welcome collaborators and are keen to reach out to lots of different people. There is a doctoral training centre that is focused on vascular dementia, led by Manchester. So I think it would be good for you to reach out to them. Quite probably, that's probably a better alignment and a better fit. But we are spending quite a lot of time with our students and with our cohorts, really ensuring that the work that they are doing is very applied, considering implementation, and really ensuring that it is integrated into frontline services. So that is something that we are very much focused upon.
So can you hear me okay now?
We've got.
I
Adam's
think the
away to himself.
Well, everybody else can hear me except for you, apparently. So we have a slight technical problem in that I think all the audience can hear me, but Nathan and Claudia apparently can't hear me, which has persuaded me that this was my fault. But what I will do is I will post the questions I've been given in advance from other people into the chat, and then they'll be able to see them, because we're all clever here. We can do good workarounds, and hopefully we'll still get them. So let me bring up my questions on my screen so that they can I can paste them across for for Nathan and Claudia, who apparently can't hear me. There we go. The joys of technology. So these are the questions that we've been given in advance from people. And I will pop them up on the screen while I can't hear them anymore. But let me try to... Can you hear me now, Nathan? And
we can't hear you, Adam, I'm afraid.
So I'm going to bring them off and back again.
other questions, feel
Thank
free
you.
to put them in the chat.
Never know. Maybe they'll be able to hear me.
Otherwise, I think we've perhaps answered everybody's questions, and we could just warmly encourage you to email us.
Yeah.
And we're here ready to receive your emails. Ah, hello. Hello, would it be a disadvantage if my recent work is related to integrated care in another medical area, but very passionate about dementia and have personal clinical experience? Well, that sounds great. I think it's about telling your story. So you can say that you are fascinated by integrated care and you have these skills from your recent work. You don't say whether it's research or clinical, but either are great. But now you wish to transfer that to dementia for that reason. That's a really interesting story to hear, because of course we love the idea of people bringing expertise from different medical areas. That's great. Curious a bit more about the interview process. Would the supervisor of our first choice project have any influence on getting selected, or based just on the panel?
So so your application will come through to us, and what we would like to see is that evidence that you have spoken to the supervisors. So like Claudia said, really do reach out to those supervisors. It might be you can only speak to the one, but we would really like to see that. Some of the supervisors may be on the interview panel. We will have representation from all of the 5 partners, the 5 universities at the interview panel. And we will ask you to do a short presentation at that interview as well. And that's where you've got the opportunity to really sell yourself, your ideas, your thoughts, and that you can demonstrate you've spoken to the potential supervisor as well. And then, yes, it would be the panel who will make that final decision as well.
How is the time split between clinical duties and research? So it's a research, the Alzheimer Society are paying for a full-time researcher, but if you are clinical, you will need to keep your skills up. And so therefore, up to a day a week, there is an we would, I mean, you don't have to, but we would expect you to be doing some supernumerary clinical sessions in the appropriate trust. Obviously, it will depend. I think the clinical one is based here, so it would likely be within East London NHS Foundation Trust. But what you do is up to you. How closely do students work with partners such as charities, NHS teams, or community groups?
Very much so. So this is something that we are very passionate about ensuring that happens. So we have a number of partners as part of the DTC. So this includes Marie Curie, for example, Nuffield. We work very closely with NHS England and other NHS trusts as well. So this is something that we are very much focused on, and we really want to see evidence in all of our PhDs as well, because of course this is how you get things done and how you get to know what's happening on the ground. So I think that you've got 4 years, and we would really encourage and support you to develop these links strongly with your supervisors and as part of your project. And we have, as part of the DTC, we have an advisory group which includes people from some of those organisations. And we also have a stakeholder group as well, which we're continuing to build and develop as we go through, and that will become bigger and bigger with every cohort we have. So there will be opportunities throughout that, but we would also put a bit of an emphasis on hopefully you being able to do that as well yourselves.
Yes, you can apply to more than one project, because you apply to the scheme and then you rank your choices of project. Also, when we interview and when we make our selection, what happens is that the successful applicants are ranked. And so it might be that you were successful, but you weren't ranked first, and therefore that your first choice project has gone, hasn't it?
Yes.
And therefore that's why we ask you to select 3.
Yeah.
So yes, you can apply to more than one project. We like you to apply for 3 in ranked order.
Yeah. For applicants without a traditional academic background, how can they best show readiness for a PhD? Oof, that's a very good question, isn't it?
Well, I was trying to speak to that a little bit with what I was saying around transferable skills. I think it's just worth writing your application early and then pondering and walking around with it for a little bit to just really think if there's anything else that you can draw on in your life, because you will have done writing, you will have done communicating, you will have done some form of researching in the past. You may have particular strengths in policy or in some of the stakeholder groups that we've talked about. If you are coming from a very clinical background and you haven't done as much research as perhaps is others, you might want to think about, well, did you do some clinical audit, or what did you write up as a report? Just to show that you can, you've got those transferable writing skills that you can bring.
Yeah. What does a typical week? Oh, was that the right one? What does a typical week look like for a DT student across different institutions? Well, I think that's very different for different students, depending on what the project is and where you're located as well. But I think what we really try to do is create a cohort within our DTC so that students are linked together nicely. You will also join, obviously, other students that are not necessarily part of the DTC, but are PhD students in your host department as well. But I think it will vary by year. So in the first year, you're very much spending time getting to know the field, getting to know the area, a lot of reading, a lot of time to think and reflect. And I think that's one of the really important things about these PhDs, and the great thing the Alzheimer Society have done is giving us 4 years per PhD, which is not normal, really. Most PhD studentships are 3 years. So that's a really good opportunity to have that time to reflect. And then as you go through, you might spend more time doing data collections. You probably won't be in the office as much, for example. And then later on, you're obviously doing your dissemination, your write-up, and sharing your findings. So it varies is the answer to that, I think. I don't think we can give much more.
Yeah, I think that it's often helpful to think of it as a full-time job.
Yeah.
Because that's important, because it's about putting in the hours, but also switching off at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people find it quite a shift coming from full-time work to being a student. It can feel a little, so it can be quite nice to really think about your timetable. Think about when you're doing your training, when you're going to socialise with other PhD students, opportunities to meet stakeholders, and then periods where you are writing and working on your thesis. In general, is there an expectation about how much time is spent on site, i.e. if we don't live within a daily commute? What would you like to say about that?
Again, this will vary by university. So I guess the thing with being a national DTC is we obviously have our own universities within that DTC as well, which will have their own requirements and their own expectations. But we would really encourage PhD students to go on site, go into their universities, go into the departments, because a PhD can actually be quite lonely at times, I think, when you're doing a dedicated piece of work that you lead and you don't necessarily have other researchers on that project. You have your supervisory team, you have your peers around you. So I would really take the most opportunity to go in. However, the whole thing about this being a national DTC as well is you might be based in one of our universities, but another of the universities is very close by. And so we have got agreement with our partners that our students can use multiple universities as well and our facilities. So, but I would really try to encourage you to come in. I think it makes the PhD journey much better, and you'll be better off for it, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a few of these we could just give shorter answers to. I'm just thinking about getting through them. So how much freedom will students have to shape the direction of their project over time? Lots, because it's your project. It's your project, and we're very much there to supervise, not to, it's not like we're the person leading the project and you're working on it. So loads of opportunity, but the best supervisor-student interactions are when you discuss and actually you co-produce the ideas between you, because your supervisor will bring a lot in terms of what's feasible and what's possible. And there's also not only an opportunity, but an expectation that you will co-produce your projects with PPI, who will be on every thesis.
Yeah, so every student will have 2 PPI members, so either someone living with dementia or a family carer. So we are building that network up at the moment, and we've got about a network of 15 PPI members at the moment, which will have that. So structured teaching, so there is an expectation that you obviously do training throughout your PhD. It's obviously primarily research-led and working with your supervisors, but you would have the opportunity to go on some structured teaching as well as part of that. And that might be, for example, a course on how to develop or deliver a systematic review or scoping review. It might be on specific data collection methods, might be on knowledge mobilization. So you have that £1,000 a year budget to do some training as well. And so it's nice to have a bit of variety of the different types of learning and training opportunities. So some structured training would be desirable.
And of course, each institution will have its own programme. So at Queen Mary, we've got, as do all of the DTPs, quite a rich programme to tap into. Will there be opportunities to teach? I think we could rustle some up, couldn't we, Queen Mary?
I think there's always an opportunity to teach, and I think it's a really good thing for you to do teaching as part of your PhD, actually, because it develops you into a nice, well-rounded academic as well going forward. I think it's just about being careful when you do the teaching and how much of that you do, because you don't want it to consume your work and your life. So a balanced approach, but always speak to your supervisors and us within the DTC about that. But yes, opportunities are available.
Yes, including paid opportunities as well.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether you're looking for a specific background, neuroscientists, biology graduates, neuropsychologists, or are you considering more technical profiles? I think any of the above, really. We are looking at competencies and skills and potential and interest in dementia and capability to do this really, really well. And you could come from such a wealth of backgrounds to dementia. It really is a melting pot of different, even medical specialities, geriatrics, psychiatry, neurology, general practice, but also across social care, all of the specialties, and people coming from really different methodological backgrounds as well, from sort of the big data experts and the coders right through to ethnography and qualitative research.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's all the questions we've had right now. I wonder, Nathan, in your talk, have you set me up on your other phone so you can hear me? Well done. We're finding workarounds. I wonder, is there any, are there any projects in there that you particularly like to draw attention to that you think might be not get as many applicants that compared to some of the others? Because clearly there are, there's a wide range of projects there. Then clearly some of them are going to be more mainstream than others. Are there any in there that you're particularly keen to promote?
Want me to start off?
Yes.
Other than your own, obviously.
I don't want to take this opportunity to push my own project because that doesn't. I think that all I can say is all of the projects have got very passionate people behind them, and we all think that our projects are absolutely fantastic. I think whilst there were in our first iteration a few projects that were more commonly picked, every single project was picked by at least one or two people that were interviewed. So because we do them right across the span, in a way, I feel if we've done the same again, we should get the sort of equity of application. There are a few that have been flagged for the clinical placement as considered particularly useful for that, aren't there?
Yeah, so there's 3 that we flagged for the clinical placement because the clinical placement can only be at QMUL. So the projects that we've flagged for that are around hospital at home or virtual wards, one around tool development, which would be working with Claudia on Grace.
Well, if you insist, yes. Brilliant.
And the other one would be focusing on palliative and end-of-life care. So that's funded by our Academic Centre for Healthy Ageing, based here at Queen Mary University. So that would be working with some of the clinical professors there as well. So I don't want to promote too many projects because otherwise we might bias. But as Claudia said, there were lots of applications last year across all of the projects, to be honest. But I think we've got such a massive variety, and that's the whole point. And I think that's one of the great things about our DTC, focusing on such a big, broad topic like integrated care.
Could you kindly take us through the recruitment process? Which bit from to the putting in of the application, or from the application?
I was
Well,
reading the application form myself as well, and I was looking. So applicants are asked to identify 3 projects in their order of preference. I mean, do you then select candidates from that? How do you decide? How do you decide who gets allocated to which project? Because I can see that might be where, you might say, right, you're a great student, but actually we've got 2 people that have both said they want the same project. How do you work that through?
Gosh, this is such a technical process. You're having to mute the sound on my other laptop and put this mic back on. So what we do is, with all of the candidates that we interview, each of the interview panel members will score each of their questions, which will give us a total score for each of the students. We then rank all of the people that we have interviewed. So we have them from 1 to 15, however many we've interviewed. The highest ranking students will then get their first choice. So if student 1 has picked project 2 and student 2 has picked project 2, student 2 would then get their second choice because their first choice is already gone. So that's how we would do it. That's the fairest way that we discussed with the Alzheimer Society and with our colleagues when we put the project together.
Yes, and it's the same with institutions, because each institution can have 1 student. So it's not like UCL can have 2 and Leeds Beckett can have none. So it'll be the same way. The first person gets absolute free rein on all projects, all institutions, and then as you go down, there's less choice. But nobody ended up. I mean, everybody ended up with projects they were very happy with, and places they were very happy with last time.
I'm guessing that this ends up being part of a bit of a discussion, really, that if it turns out student number 4 on the list, that projects 1, 2, and 3 have already gone to 1, 2, and 3, they're not going to get turned away because their project isn't available. There'll be a conversation with that person to say, hey, which of these do you want if you still want to join us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we deliberately leave quite a lot of time at the end of the day for the panel to discuss. And, last year, I don't think we actually finished our discussion necessarily all in one day. We do then meet up following that. So we do really take a lot of time and consideration with that, because this is a big thing. And it's a lot of people that are affected by this. So we do really take the time to think that through. It is a fairly large panel because we've got representation from all of the universities, but that actually is quite good because you get to have that proper academic discussion around that. And last year, there wasn't really any disagreement amongst the panel. We were all fairly on the same page about who were the appropriate people to appoint. And we ended up with 5 fantastic PhD students who got to do projects that they were passionate about and wanted to do. So, it comes down to a conversation, I think, with the student about, well, that project isn't available, but this one is. And how would you think about making that your own and making it into something that you would want to do?
I'll wait for you to. There we go. So to answer that question we've been asked, so I'm guessing applications are due by the 12th of January. Then you have your period of shortlisting. How long does that normally? How long does shortlisting last before you then get told you've got an interview?
I think this is why we need Danielle here, actually, but I'm pretty sure it's within 2 weeks we would be letting you know. So I think we've given our panel members 2 to 3 weeks to do the full shortlisting, and then you would be notified of an interview at that point. So the interviews will be on the 19th of February. So you should have at least a week's notice for the interview attendance, basically.
And this year's form, this year's applicants have got a new section, which is this public involvement and engagement work, where you've asked people to kind of outline their experience of PPI. I can understand, what if you haven't got a great deal? I mean, is it okay to say, I haven't got any? Because, of course, some of the people that are applying for this might be fairly fresh out of undergraduate, or what other experiences other than directly PPI might you kind of count that they can put in that section?
I think it's if you just think about, why do I want to do this? Why have I? There must be a reason that you want to do a dementia care PhD. So I would just ask yourself, why is that? Where did this interest come from? And there will be an answer to that. And I think it's just, honesty really does shine through in just really explaining why you want to do this. As somebody said in one of the earlier comments, maybe you have more experience in other areas of integrated care, or maybe you have experiences looking after older people or with older people. But it's just nice to hear what the motivation is.
And just to let you know, Danielle has just messaged me to say that applicants will be we'll let applicants know on the week commencing the 9th of February about whether they've been successful for an interview.
So I think even if you haven't actually done any direct experience of PPI, don't let that put you off applying or thinking, oh, well, I'm not eligible. Instead, maybe use that section to talk about your understanding of why it's important, how you'd like to do, why you value that, and your understanding of the benefits of that. We haven't.
I'm just going to say, if you think of a broad understanding of what public and patient involvement is, including the public involvement, it would be an unusual life, I think, to have absolutely no relevant experience whatsoever. So just think back about times when you've been part of a public event or a discussion, even if it's not on dementia. I think that there's lots of things that are PPI that don't have the name PPI on them.
That's good advice. We've had another question in. If shortlisted, how long is the interview usually, and what kind of questions will you be asked? That's a good question. Oh, I've lost sound from you now.
No, sorry, it was me. I hadn't unmuted, and finding two laptops difficult to deal with. So last year the interviews were 30 minutes, and we asked people to give a short 5-minute presentation about the project that they were particularly interested in and why, and how they would make that their own. So we'll follow a similar format this year. Questions, standard interview questions, to be honest with you, which align with the criteria. So, why are you applying? Why do you want to do a PhD? Talk us through your experience. Standard kind of interview questions, nothing out of the ordinary to surprise you.
Wonderful. Well, this is your very, very last chance to ask questions, but just a reminder for everybody who's watching, the deadline is the 12th of January for applications. You can find the application form, guidance, details on all the projects and the supervisors and their contact details on our website at dementiaresearcher.nihr.ac.uk/ICare. And the range of projects in here is amazing. I'm not going to read them all out because the list is long, but you've got measuring carer burden for people with South Asian backgrounds. There's working in palliative care and end of life, pre-hospital care, diagnostic inequalities. What else we got down in Plymouth? There's sleep nutrition, using AI-enabled biomarkers. At LSE, you've got things on using autonomy, independence technology. There really is something in here for everybody's possible interest, and hopefully that can align with the part of the world where you want to be, because of course these are really spread across, whether you're in London, up in the north, in Yorkshire, or down in Plymouth, there's a place for you there. And the stipend is very generous as well. So hopefully it's affordable to live wherever in the country you decide to do. So as we said, if you do have questions and you have missed out on joining us live today, I'm just going to bring that slide up again. There you go. ICare DTC at qmul.ac.uk is where you can email those questions to. On your screen right now as well is a QR code in the top left-hand corner. If you take a screen grab, if you're watching on a mobile, or hold your phone up there, and that'll take you off to those. But thank you very much to Nathan and Claudia. And apologies to everybody if we've had technical problems today. This is the first time we've done my first live stream with ICare, and the first time we've also had any technical problems with any of our live streams. So there we go. It's bad luck. But thank you very much.
I think it's my laptop, Adam.
Do get your applications in. You've got Christmas to do that. Plenty of time to take a break away from the mince pies and put your applications for your PhD in. And again, if you want to know more about ICare, have you got a website as well these days where you can find out more about your existing work?
It's through your website, through Dementia Researcher. There's information on there, and there's also information on the Alzheimer's Society website as well.
Absolutely. You can find details on all their projects there. They've been doing a feature recently on the people that were delivered in cohort 1. And of course, it's always an interesting way to think about if this is for you, that those people who were in the first cohort are all detailed. You could always, I'm sure, reach out to some of those who talk about their experiences in the first, although they're all still quite fresh, right? They're only a few months in, but I'm sure they'd be happy to chat to you as well. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much to Nathan and Claudia, and do get your applications in by the 12th of January. Thank you.
Forward to seeing your applications.
Bye.
Bye.